Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm Enda Call. This is Calling It. So Celtic take on AC Milan in the Europa League, the first round of group stage matches. Big European nights back at Celtic Park. No fans in the stadium, but it is a big match for Celtic. AC Milan are in flying form. They haven't lost a game this season so far in the Serie A, so they are going to be a really tough opposition for Celtic. Celtic not so much in great form, but hopefully in the Europa League they might get back to winning ways. So let's get into this video. So as I said, AC Milan are in flying form. They have won 4 games from 4 in the Serie A so far. Ibrahimovic has been flying for them. He's going to be a real threat for them in this game. So it's going to be a tough fixture for Celtic. They didn't do well in the Glasgow Derby at the weekend. I covered that in a video already. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but Celtic really need to up their game from that because the players didn't look up for it. The tactics didn't look right, and it was just a bit of a mess altogether for Neil Lennon's side. So hopefully in Europe they can pick up their form and have the form they have in the Europa League last year when they got big wins against Lazio, and this is another fixture that they can really up their game and see what they can do in Europe against the European best. So the team news, there is some changes. Neil Lennon has been speaking ahead of this game. Edouard is out, Ryan Christie is out, essentially out. He said that he might be fit, but he will be a doubt for this game. I doubt he's going to play. He isn't fit enough after 2 weeks out of self-isolating away from after the Scottish camp. James Forrest is also out, and Edouard is a doubt. Neil Lennon has also said that Edouard is unlikely to play in this game because he's not going to be fit enough. As I said before, it is a respiratory disease that Edouard has had, so it's not as simple as you get COVID, you have COVID, and then you're over COVID. You have to get back to training. You have to get your respiratory system back going again, get some lung capacity back, and Edouard might be out for a couple of weeks, so we have to plow on without him, see how Celtic get on without him in Europe. It is going to be difficult because obviously he is by far and away Celtic's best player, so missing him in these big European nights is going to be a bit of a task, but you have to get on with it anyway. So what will Celtic go for as their starting 11? Well, I'm going to go with Barkas in goal. So Barkas, I've seen a lot of people giving him stick after the Rangers game. He has had a couple of bad games, but I mean that doesn't make him a bad keeper. Some people, the difficulty with being a goalkeeper is that you make a mistake and it's a goal, and that comes with the pressure of being a goalkeeper for a team like Celtic. You don't often get tested, and when you do get tested you have to be at the top of your game, and Barkas, he was at the start of the season. I think he's a very good goalkeeper, a very good shot stopper. He's commanding in the area, and he's the best goalkeeper Celtic have had in years. So the jury is not out on Barkas for me. I think he is a solid number 1 in nets, and I do think he's going to start in this game despite his poor form against Rangers and in other games as well. Jeremy Frimpong is another man. He's going to start at right wing back. It is going to be a 3-5-2. That is the formation Neil Lennon is going to go with, although there could be a bit of a surprise in this game. Who knows? There's a couple of injuries out, so it is going to be interesting to see. I think he's going to go with a 3-5-2 again. Jeremy Frimpong, disappointing against Rangers. I think overall everybody was disappointing against Rangers. It wasn't a good performance from everybody. It looked sluggish, and Jeremy Frimpong isn't excluded from that either. He wasn't great against Rangers. He didn't get forward enough. He didn't get enough crosses into the box. He was a little bit sloppy in possession, but also he has also been Celtic's form player this year. I think he's excellent going forward, and he can provide some danger going down that right hand flank, so he's well worth getting into your team as well. As centre back, Shane Duffy, I do think Shane Duffy will come good. I think he has been disappointing enough since he signed. Just a little bit of lack of form. I think he needs to be a bit more commanding. He is Celtic's starting centre back. He needs to, and he has done this. I've seen him for Brighton and I've seen him for Ireland multiple times, being that commanding voice in the centre defence. And with Chris Julian out, I think that Christopher Ajer beside him definitely needs that commanding person beside him. So I think Shane Duffy needs to step into his role a bit more, be a bit more commanding. He was unlucky with Connor Golson's second goal when he sort of slipped and couldn't get up for the rebound. He did block the first shot, so I think he was unlucky there. I do think he will come good. I think that he just needs to be a little bit more commanding. Same with this guy here, Christopher Ajer. He is a good player. He's good with the ball. He's good at coming out from defence, but he needs to be a bit more solid, and that is going to show against AC Milan this week on Thursday night in the Europa League, because it is going to be Stephen Welsh beside them, the youngster, 20 years old. I don't want to focus on his performance in the Old Firm in the Glasgow Derby too much, because he's a 20-year-old that was thrown in at the deep end, so that's always going to be a tough task. It was sink or swim for Stephen Welsh against Rangers, and I'm not going to rule him out as a potential future centre-back for Celtic just because he wasn't great. You saw him, there's pictures going around on social media about his performance and about him on the bench, and he looked absolutely devastated after the game. So you don't want youngsters being completely ruined with their confidence after losing one game, but it is nice to see that he actually cared about that, because it looked like a lot of the Celtic players didn't care. So I think Stephen Welsh, I think this is a big opportunity for him to stamp down his place in the team and as a potential centre back for Celtic going forward, because obviously when Chris Julian comes back, Welsh will be out of the team, so this is a chance for him to even cement his place on the bench going forward for Celtic. So it is a big night for Stephen Welsh. I do think he will start. And then a left wing back, Laxalt, our new signing, former AC Milan player, coming up against his team. He is on loan from AC Milan, so it's going to be an interesting one. He is not cup tied for them, so he can play in this game. And again, the jury is still out on Laxalt. I'm not going to rule him out as a player just because he had a bad performance against Rangers. And I actually don't even think he was that bad. I actually thought he was quite good. He was good at getting forward. He got good crosses into the box. He does look a real danger going forward. But as I said, we already spoke about this in a video with an Italian journalist, Connor Clancy. He is not a left back. So if you're looking for a left back, then Laxalt is not it. He is a left winger converted into a left wing back, so defensively he is going to be lax, and we did speak about that. So that is the trade-off for a player going forward. If he's not good at getting back, then you need that midfield to be covering for him, and that's where we get to the midfield for this game. I do think Scott Brown is going to start. Now, I was highly critical of Scott Brown when it came to the Glasgow Derby. I thought he had an awful game, and it is a numerous number of bad games now that Scott Brown has had in a Celtic shirt this season. But also, I don't want to be overly critical of him either, because he is getting old. It's not really his fault that he doesn't have the legs anymore. It's more the fault of Neil Lennon for continuing with him, despite the fact that he has shown that he doesn't have the legs to do that cover anymore. So Scott Brown, will he start in this game? I think he will. Neil Lennon is very, very keen on Scott Brown in midfield, and he is commanding in midfield. But again, last year I didn't think Scott Brown was that great in the Europa League, and this year again I'm not sure he has the legs, but I do think he will start because Neil Lennon is loyal to Scott Brown in midfield, and alongside him is Cal McGregor. Now, Scott Brown is... Yeah, it is critical. You have to be critical of Scott Brown, but also you do have to be critical of Cal McGregor, because Cal McGregor is playing alongside him, and although he is having better games than Scott Brown, he's a youngster. He's got the legs, he's got the energy. He needs to be providing more defensive cover for the left wing backs or the right wing backs, depending on where the ball's going down. Cal McGregor needs to be the legs. If Scott Brown doesn't have the legs, maybe he drops a little bit more deep and plays a sort of a playmaker role where Cal McGregor does the dirty work for Scott Brown centre defensive midfield, and I do think he needs to step it up a bit. He is better going forward, but again, I do think that he needs to provide the defensive work. If Scott Brown's going to be there, he needs to be picking up the pieces as well if Celtic are going to progress in this competition. And in midfield, Olivier Ntcham is going to play in the number 10 role, and to be honest, I've spoken about this multiple times. Ntcham, for me, is not good enough in the number 10 role because he doesn't provide enough cover for the other midfielders. He's forward too much, he doesn't track back enough, and I think he's better actually as a deeper lying midfielder and playing the ball from there and getting forward and bursting forward from midfield. And I do think he is the option that should be starting ahead of Scott Brown in that sort of deeper lying midfield role. But he will be starting here against AC Milan because Ryan Christie is going to be out, James Forrest is also out, and I don't think David Turnbull is going to get his chance in the Europa League. It would be a massive risk for Neil Lennon to stick David Turnbull in at number 10 in the Europa League against AC Milan in his first ever Europa League appearance. So that would be a massive risk for David Turnbull, but Olivier Ntcham is going to be the one that's going to be starting there. I do believe that, and I think he needs to up his game as well because he hasn't been great in my opinion. I think he's better as a deep line role, but I don't think he's been playing to his potential either. And then up front you have two up front, so El Younousi, inconsistent, always has been, needs to pick his act up. I think the issue with El Younousi against Rangers at the weekend was partially not his fault because he wasn't getting enough ball into his feet. He wasn't getting enough ball in behind. And a lot of the ball actually went long and high. El Yunusi's not that type of player, so I don't know what they expected. So I do think that if we can provide the right service for El Yunusi, he can be a really good player. But if he doesn't get the right service, he doesn't work hard enough. So that's a trade-off with El Yunusi. I do think he's an excellent player. I think he can cause a lot of teams damage. He's been the player that's pulled us out of a few tight spots in Europe this year so far. So I do think he is a good option at the number 9 or false 9, wherever. He's up there with the 2. And then this man here, Albion Ajeti. Will he be fit? So I had a bit of a rant about Albion Ajeti after the Rangers game because he wasn't fit. He did pick up a knock against Hibs, which I wasn't actually aware of. I know he went off in that game. I didn't know he had a knock. But there's a difference between a knock and being unfit, you know. Maybe Neil Lennon wanted everyone at the top of the game, and that's why Patrick Kamala started as the striker against Rangers. But I do think, you know, you need to play through a bit of pain at times, and Albion Ajeti needs to do that as well. I think he will be fit for this game. Neil Lennon has been sort of talking him up and saying he hasn't ruled him out, essentially. So every player that Neil Lennon has spoken about that was out for the Rangers game, the likes of Edouard, the likes of Ryan Christie, the likes of Chris Julian, he has already ruled them out, or essentially ruled them out. He hasn't said anything about Albion Ajeti so far, not that I have seen. Anyway, he may do in his press conference ahead of this game, which I haven't seen yet. But Albion Ajeti, I do think he will be starting, and I do think he's a better option than Patrick Klimala, because Klimala was awful against Rangers, really, really bad. And Albion Ajeti, I think he provides a bit more attacking nous, a bit more intelligence going forward. He gives the forwards and wing backs a bit more option in the box, because a lot of the time Celtic actually got forward quite a bit at the weekend, but the crosses coming into the box were to no one because nobody was in the box, because Patrick Klimala wasn't up there, and El Yunusi isn't that sort of in the box poacher that you would have. He's more of a winger. He's converting into the striker role. So I do think Albion Ajeti is a great option to have there if he's fit. He should be fit for this game. If he's not fit, then I really don't know what's going on with Celtic's training at the minute, because there have been way too many players that have been unfit this season so far. So ultimately, Celtic, AC Milan in the Europa League. This is a massive, massive game for Celtic. It's going to be tough. The likes of Ibrahimovic are going to cause Celtic some real issues. So defensively, that's where I'm looking at Celtic. Can they be a bit more defensively solid? What I would be a little bit worried about is Celtic sort of returning to the 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1, and the likes of Greg Taylor coming in at left back and Neil Lennon really setting in for this game, because I don't think Celtic do well in that situation. These players are used to winning, they're used to playing on the front foot, and I don't think that's where their strength lies. So that's what I would be worried about, Neil Lennon just being a little bit too conservative in this game. Celtic, obviously, AC Milan are the better side. They are favourites going into this game. They're top of the Serie A at the minute. They're in great form. Stefano Pioli, their manager, has also said that they want to win this competition, because he took over this job. He took over the AC Milan job last year, and he was only getting it to January. They had already sourced a replacement for him, and then they were in such great form that they decided to give him the role full time, and now they're really building on it, and they're really building something there with Zlatan at the helm, and that is a real worry for me in this game. But I'm not ruling out a big night for Celtic either, because Lazio were favourite last year, and look what Celtic did. They went and beat them home and away last year in the Europa League. So more surprising things have actually happened in Europe for Celtic. So massive game, really excited for it. I really hope that it doesn't turn out to be another wet duck for Celtic, and like the Glasgow Derby, which I thought Celtic would have won, they end up losing, and the performance has left me depressed. So that was calling it with End of Call. How do you think the AC Milan game is going to go on Thursday night for Celtic? Do you think they're going to win? Who do you think is going to start? What do you think of my starting lineup? Just let me know in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it does help. I am going to be going around getting a bit more creative with my videos over the course of the season. My studio is finally complete, or almost complete. I've got rid of the green screen altogether because it was too much work. So I'm really looking forward to covering Celtic and a couple of more videos as well over the course of the season. I might branch out towards other things as well, Celtic. So stay tuned for all that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm End of Call. This has been Calling It. We'll chat to you later.